Hello, everyone. I hope my voice is clear. Thank you so much for joining our ISF Group webinar today. We extend a warm welcome to all of you. I believe there are people joining in from Singapore, Malaysia, or various parts of India. I'm joining from Tokyo. I'm Yogita Kapoor. I'm working with ISF Group, and I extend a warm welcome to all of you for this session today. We plan to be, which will be a masterclass in principles of new shipbuilding supervision by our speaker today, Shri V.K. Chandrasekharan, and we will also be launching the Learn from the Practitioner series. And I will be requesting one of my team members to later elaborate on that a bit. I would also like to welcome everyone who's, of course, here on Zoom and also who's joined in on our live streaming on YouTube. We hope that the audio is clear to all of you. In case any part of audio is not clear, please do not worry. A version of this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel right after this is over for you to view later on as well. So let us begin. I will begin by sharing a little bit about our organization. ISF Group now has been active for over 20 years. Today, we have three main entities under ISF Group. One is a Maritime Services Private Limited, founded in Mumbai. We have a wholly owned subsidiary in Singapore, and we also have a charitable trust, Inner Search Foundation. We have been involved in various activities, primarily in maritime and also some which do come into other sectors. Our charitable trust has been involved in a lot of research, benchmarking surveys, which do happen in the maritime sector. We do publish a lot of project reports, many research publications, working papers in our ongoing journals. We have also been involved in social activities, promotion of arts, yoga, meditation, counseling. In fact, this year we have released an album of bhajans, and we also had a story writing competition for all ages under the charitable trust. Coming to area of interest probably to you are Maritime Services and ISF Group International, which offer a host of services, starting with, we started with a Maritime and Offshore Institute, which has value-added courses. We will be having a lot of professional learn from practitioner programs that we are launching today. Also distance learning programs for all ranks, all types of ships. We have a lot of support from our software team, where we have, through which we have developed software applications for education and training. There are a lot of customized web portals that are being used by over 15 companies today. We have our own e-learning platform and also an electronic distance learning program. We have been involved in management and consultancy in the form of academic partnerships, project and feasibility reports, consultancy projects, etc. We do have a division for surveys and audits with an independent team. And finally, we do have another an independent online career guidance portal called So What Next, which has a host of counselors and many interest, aptitude tests, etc. Right. And now with this introduction, I would like to call my one of my co-host and colleague, Mr. Pawan Kapoor. And Mr. Pawan Kapoor, over to you. I hope your mic is on unmute.
Yeah, thank you, Yogita. And once again, a very warm welcome to all of you. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. And I shall take a few minutes just to introduce the concept of learn from a practitioner. I mean, I'm sure you all will agree it's not a very new concept as such. There has been always value which has been recognized and appreciated, that it's best to learn from people who practice. But perhaps the need for this is far more than we have ever felt, In the recent times, ever since the pandemic hit us, at one point of time, we were all talking about maybe a lot of opportunities will come our way in India, because maybe the global scenario is such that most countries would stop trusting some of the large countries who have been pretty prominent of late. But then again, an apprehension which comes to our mind always is that, are we really prepared to be able to take up things at a pace and of quality which can help us play a dominant role in the global scenario? And this is where we realize that there is a need to develop skills like never before. I mean, successive governments have all realized the importance of skill development. And of course, the current government also has been very positive and very focused about it. So if you see, our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, has also put a quote recently. May I request Yogita to move to the next slide? He says, our mission is skill development, and there can be no development with a satiated system. And it is so important for us to recognize that if we really want to scale up whatever we want to do in our country today, whether it is shipbuilding or playing a dominant role in ship owning and so on and so forth, unless we get over this feeling of being satisfied, we will probably not go very far. So there is a need for skill development, and which has to go beyond just a paper policy. In fact, the recent education policy, which has been revised, also has got a lot of positive points. But of course, some of us perhaps may be apprehensive that can we actually implement things at the grassroots level? And that obviously requires a lot of focused effort and a consistent effort to be able to do that. So skill development is extremely important. And we need to get over the feeling of remaining satisfied if we really want to get somewhere. That was the first thing which we felt is important in the current times. Now, what is the need for a practitioner to come and pass on the skills to others? Again, we realize the importance of this. And there is a famous quote by the famous playwright Somerset Maugham. And I'll request Yogita to please move to the next slide. He says, you learn more quickly under the guidance of experienced teachers. You waste a lot of time going down blind alleys if you have no one to lead you. So there is tremendous value of somebody who has working knowledge, who has done it, to actually be passing on the knowledge to others. So with this, I will just introduce you to some of the concepts, some of the ideas that we have as far as Learn from the Practitioner series is concerned. And I'll present some of the salient features of this concept that we are coming up with. Next slide, please. So first thing that we are very clear that the faculty for the programs will always be with extensive practical experience in the respective fields. And they would also be having sound underpinning knowledge. So we're not talking about only practicing something, but there have to be solid concepts behind them. Further, it is very important for us to understand that these will not be like seminars. What we are doing today is probably just a glimpse of what may be coming in future, but they will have to be structured program delivered in a professionally managed. We intend to keep all the programs, ladies and gentlemen, as online programs, basically. And we would also not like to have the participants to cross more than 16 to 20 so that there is a direct contact that a faculty or the expert has with them throughout the program. Yeah, next point, please.
Yes.
They will be modular in format. So what we intend doing is these programs probably will be, there'll be cycles of them running, probably every quarter, and they'll be modular. So people who may be working or may have limited time will also not find it difficult to attend these programs. And perhaps they can complete modules in successive cycles, So we are going to come up with a flexibility which will actually make it easy for people to undergo these programs. Yes, please. And of course, the programs would have the faculty guiding them, plus a lot of self-paced learning will also take place. And the last point, please, Yogita. What we would be doing is we have a virtual institute platform, which is called Helms. And very soon, in fact, my colleague, Captain Sidhwa, will share with you some of the details of these programs which are coming up. But most importantly, these programs Learn from the Practitioner series will be actually running on Helms, and they allow contact hours, presentations, assignments, assessments, video formats, animations. Everything is available at the fingertips of a learner, and he can learn at his own pace while there is a faculty to guide him in a structured manner as well as informally at a later stage also. So with these thoughts, without taking much time, we move on to the core program of today, that is a master class by Mr. V.K. Chandrasekhar. May I request Yogita to you to show the next slide, please?
Yeah.
And before I go further, I hand over to Chandru, as we lovingly call him. I'm going to introduce him briefly to all of you. He is a marine engineer who passed out from DMIT in 1980. And he is recently retired as head of safety quality and as the DP of the Great Eastern Shipping Company. He had a long sea service followed by almost 17 years with the Lloyd Register of Shipping, and where he was involved in various capacities. And then after being on the regulatory side, Chandru moved on to his parent company, that is Great Ship India and Great Eastern, where he has spent extensive number of years, almost 8 years. And he was most of the time involved with the new building projects. He has looked after the new building of both types of vessels, which is offshore vessels as well as main fleet vessels. So he comes with extensive knowledge, and without anything further, I'm going to ask Chandru to take over from here. All yours, Chandru. Thank you so much.
Right. So I will stop sharing screen, Mr. Chandrasekhan, so you can then start with your, yeah. Yes, Mr. Chandrasekhan, over to you. Please go ahead. I will just, so you are on, so I may ask request.
Yeah, fine. I am unmuted. Thanks. You can hear? Yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As Pawan said, introduced me just now, the Chandrasekharan. Thank you all for your presence at our inaugural session of the Learn from Practitioner series. And at the onset, I must thank ISF and IMOI to make this attempt into a reality. And just before I start sharing my slide, I will tell you that we will have 2 question and answer sessions, one somewhere in the middle of this and one towards the end of the session. And I will request the participants to limit their questions then. And the administration of these questions will be done by ISF, our moderator, Yogita. Please mail it to her or please send it to her on the chat, and she would present it as a moderator when we have time, rather than getting into a lot of talking coming in. And as I said, we should be able to answer most of your questions, and should we have any problems with some of them during the course of the day, we will come back to you as an individual basis. With that, I will start my screen sharing, if it's okay with you all. Yeah, this is kind of my favorite screen of a new building, which was an old one, which is, I think, centuries old, how they started building a shipping. So to start with, we'll run a small safety video, if it's okay with you, right?
Yeah, so we are not able to see your screen yet. Mr. Chandrasekharan?
Yep.
Yeah, are you sharing your screen already?
Yep.
Yeah, we are not able to see it yet. If you could just try.
Sorry, let me just go back again. I'm sorry. I thought I was sharing the screen. As we said, the experts do have Is it okay now?
No, not he. Yes, we are being.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, like we said, the experts also have issues with the modern technology, I would say. Never mind, we'll come over it. Now it's clear, everyone? I can start? All right.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Like I said, this is a screen of a very old shipbuilding when the ship was built right from the keel upwards. And that's one of my favorite posters at any of these presentations. So before we start, there's a small safety presentation, which I would like everyone to see it. It's on hard hats. Sorry, again. So coming back, just be careful, just be safe wherever you are, especially in a shipyard. Start with a couple of views of some big shipyards. This is a very large Japanese shipyard where we had fortunate to build my company, my ex-company rather, and then I was part of it. This picture, I had taken it from the very vintage point. And this is a very, very large Korean shipyard taken from air. Can you imagine what happens during a shipbuilding project? At a time, you have about 8 to 10 ships in different stages of construction, hulls completed, and there are another 4, 5 to 6 in different stages of constructions. So it's a pretty busy affair when you're doing shipbuilding. So, and every yard, especially yards of Korea, China, builds in similar ways. And this is another picture which I took, which I found it very interesting. This was on a STX yard in Korea, where they were bringing in one of the deck closures for one of the chemical oil tanker. Can you imagine the way they bring it? Everything completed, all ready to be assembled. All you need to do is the site welding. You can see even the PV valve is in place for the tanks. So it means that's the stages at which the planning goes, and that's the stages at which they build ships. So with that, I will just get into the actual process of shipbuilding. Let's say the shipbuilding actually starts in office. The process of shipbuilding starts in office because that's where the people who control the shipping and who wants to run the ships come into place. And what do they do with? They agree to build a ship, a new vessel, find a yard that has to decide slots. You need to build a vessel and get it out in the time you want the vessel to be delivered to you. Evaluate the yard. An important target, you need to evaluate the yard. Finalize the design. That's the next stage. And here I have an asterisk because I am coming with a couple of slides to say why the importance of finalizing this design, and then finalizing the technical specification. This is also with an asterisk, which I will go a little bit into details in the subsequent slides. Then the process is agree on the price, agree on the terms and contracts and deliverables. It would say when, where, how the vessel needs to be delivered, sign the contract, and then arrange the finance. This is the primary process of shipbuilding, which happens in an office of the ship owner. And then it gets passed. The next set of activities move on to the shipyard. Now, what happens in the shipyard is the first process is steel cutting. Steel cutting is ceremonious, no doubt, but it's also could be linked to making certain payments to the yard as per the contract. The second part is keel laying. Keel laying is important, not only from the owner's perspective, but also from the vessel's perspective, in the sense that the date is sacrosanct which the vessel needs to comply with the statutory requirements of that day. In fact, it also, in the olden terminology, keel laying was the vessel was built keel up in the olden days. Now it's built differently. But when you build it keel up, that is the first plate which is being put into place. And that is the stage at which you have certain amount of steel which is available for the construction of the ship already available. Because also you would say, well, my steel is available, I'm going to start building the ship. I can't make any further changes to the ship's statutory requirement. So if you see any of the certificate that is delivered to the ships, especially IOPT certificate, safety construction certificate, etc., the date of key laying is sacrosanct in it and is mentioned. That, and then the vessel would also have something called a key laying certificate issued at that day. So it's an important stage. The next stage will be making of blocks. Subsequently, these blocks get assembled either in a dry dock or slipway. Then the vessel, once the hull is ready, all the blocks are assembled, welded, etc. It is launched. Subsequently, you have what the process called outfitting. As nothing but putting things into the ship, putting them together. That could be pipeline, that could be valves, that could be engines, it could be pumps, compressors, you name it. Anything and everything. Okay, even accommodation, the galley where the food is made, the cold rooms, you name it, that gets done during the outfitting stage. Then comes one of the important stage called key or basin trials. Key and basin trials are important because the equipment that have been fitted need to have a run through and find out if there are any defects, because the next stage, the vessel will actually go out into sea. So you need to ensure that there are no defects that exist in the vessel before she moves out into sea for a next stage, what we call it sea trials. Sea trials would include endurance trial, speed trials, turning circle. Then if you've got a DP vessel, the DP trial, you run it around, the ship goes out and comes back. Depending on the type of it, in an offshore vessel, you may come back after a week and after fixing the entire thing, including a DP trial. Because small issues are fixed, because you will have a team that comes with you. If there are major issues, you come back, get it rectified, and go back for a trial. And I've had an experience going for a sea trial about 4 times before one of the vessels we could take it over, because we had issues that needed further verifications before being taken them over. Again, anchor handlers and things like that. You have bollard pull test that happens after the sea trial. And finally, the vessel is delivered. That is what we call the party time. Everybody is out of the boiler suits, into your handsome suits, everything, signed papers. But most important, before the yard gives you the vessel, you need to make sure that the payment is done. So this is the stage in general as to which a vessel gets made and delivered in a nutshell. That's it. But it's a large process. It could extend the fastest. The Japanese and the Koreans do it in about 9 months in case of a tanker, etc. Longer can extend 2 years. I said earlier that I would have a couple of slides explaining what is meaning of the thing called finalizing the design. What is important for finalizing design? When you go to a yard, most of the yards could have more than one approved design. He would say, I have more than one design. You decide which design to build to. Maybe the ship of the same size, same capacity. But then it is your choice, the owner, depending upon your business of trade, to decide what kind of design would you like to adopt, or what kind of design would suit your area of operation. And then it is also important to decide what design to accept based on what all the points of these to accept. You will have a couple of points. The first, guys, is the number of vessels previously built to this design. In that case, what happens is the number of vessels previously built means the data of these vessels, fuel consumptions, etc., are available now on internet. So you would like to do a bit of research and see which vessel is a better hull coefficient and which is more fuel efficient for you at the end of the day. Next is, in case you are the first buyer, then you would like to see the hydrodynamic test. That is the model tests which are being conducted by the yards. Most of them do it in a tunnel or in a tank, especially ship testing tanks. You got them not in all places. And India has one in Vizag, which I'm aware of. And then otherwise you go into China or Korea or Austria is one of the very famous ones where they do a lot of these tests. Question here again is, you may like to witness that, because based on these tests, you would like to have the power settings on your engine decided. Where would you like to have your engine tuned? In modern engines, with the ME engines, the tuning is rather easier. But with the older engines, which were the camshaft engines, the tuning, once it is set, yes, it can be done, but it costs money, time and money. That's what I'm saying. Once these parameters finalized, it became extremely expensive to change or made. Again, Time consuming, time and money, because time and money is very essential in the shipping business, because you need to have the vessel when you want it, not later, not before. And one more thing, what happens at this thing is, this is the stage at which the class of the vessel is agreed on. Some of the vessels will say, yes, this is approved with class A. We don't have class B, although we have now modern rules of where generally classes do approve harmonized rules which are approved by the others, but some of the class still look through it again, especially for statutory requirements. They said, we taking the statutory responsibility, we need to have a look at it. And fine, that needs to be done. So if you're taking a vessel from design A, which is approved by class B, and I want to change it to class C, well, it may have financial implications. And one more thing, what we've seen, that is personal experience, is when you have dual class, especially owners which are Indians, tend to keep dual class during building, sometimes take it after delivery. But if it is during building, the coordination is a bit tricky. Some of the yards which knows and was built to this before are ready and they know how to get about it, because in this case, both the classes would like to see the plans. That is the primary class as well as the secondary class. In which case, how the yard would say, my thing is getting delayed. You'd coordinate. It's a discussion which happens in the yard with the yard personnel and the owner. And well, you need to come to an amicable settlement, because end of the day, ship has to be built. Next is, most important is technical specification. Let me say something that in order of hierarchy, the technical specification, that including the maker's list, immediately follows the building contract. So ideally, anybody who's on the site should have both of them on the back of the hand. I used to, more than one at a time. I mean, I had to live with it that way. Because in case of any dispute, should you say at a later stage, these are the documents which comes in the forefront, because these technical specifications are also signed mostly as part of a legal document at that time. Again, I would like to reiterate that any most important document to which cost the vessel is decided at the time of building, because that is when the technical specification, because all additional requirement what owner requires on his ship needs to be specified in this document. I'll tell you why little later. I'll give an example, like we were building in a yard in Europe, and then we came to a European owner, and then he was building for vessels meant for Brazil. So I went, had a look with requested the owner's superintendent, can I come and have a look at your vessel? He says, most glad, please. He took me around, he was a master. And he took me around, and the very thing, it's an offshore vessel. Generally, in an offshore vessel, you have a common dining area for both officers and crew. But in this case, we had one common dining area and two separate areas additionally. So I asked him, why you're spending all this money? So his answer was, well, we are building it for Brazil. That is the Brazilian requirement. We have Brazilian officers and crew. They need to be kept. And we will also have other national crew. So we need to keep them separate. And I believe it is a Brazilian requirement. I may be wrong, but that's what he told me. So this needs to be decided at the stage when you're writing the technical specification. Okay, then there is another thing which says additional or remove or yard standard suppliers. Yard has a standard makers list. He will put maker A, B, C, and D. And if you sign it, he is free to choose between A to D, and he will give you the cheapest. Well, my question is, I don't want D, because I know that D isn't perhaps the best which I want from reputation or whatever it goes. So I only want A, B, and C. But that needs to be done at this stage. Otherwise, if you are agreed for A, B, and C, and D, he will give you a price A, D. He will take D, and you will say, I want A. He says, this is the differential, accept. That's it. So your cost is going to go up if these things don't get agreed now. Additional scantling requirement. Typically, bulk carrier, a lot of people said how to save your tank top thickness. Well, put in a couple of millimeters extra. It may cost you very less at this stage rather than doing it later. But then build it in here. And also say that what would be your scantling, the drawing thickness in the drawing that you need to specify. Providing standby systems. Typical designs may have 2 pumps, 3 pumps splitting between 2 systems. You may need more than that. So you will say, no, I need 2 pumps each per system. So, well, you need to say it now. Cargo systems, cargo segregation, cargo piping, very important because I've seen issues coming up during a vessel coming up for chartering. He says, no, we don't have double wall segregation. How do we have double wall segregation if it is not built into it? You need to build into it. So this is something when you finalize the technical specification, it's not only the technical department that needs to sit with it. The guys who are chartering the vessel also needs to read it and sign off at this stage. So again, sorry. Find more points. Hose handling cranes, capacity and outreach, very important, because typically a Suezmax tankers used to come with a 15-ton crane with an outreach about 7 to 8 meters from the hull. But now you say, no, I want 20 tons because some SBM needs 20-ton hose to pull. Once you have it 15 tons, yes, it can be converted to a 20-ton, but it's not an easy process because that would involve strengthening the hull, strengthening the foundation, expensive. Well, if you have time and cost, you can do it. But it's easier to get it done at this stage. Safe working load of cargo crane and grabs. You intend to discard the bulk carrier with grabs. You need to tell them how much is my grab capacity and how much over capacity of the cargo crane should I need. The standard 10% or do I need to go more? You decide it now. Type of hatch cover design. Hatch cover design important. Certain places you need to have helicopter landing. If you need helicopter landing, the hatch cover needs to be strengthened. The combings need to be strengthened. Again, to be done now. Painting scheme of the vessel. A lot of the yard standard specification is they would give you a 3-year scheme and say, that's it. Well, I don't want, why should I write up the vessel in 3 years? I would like to do it in 5 years. So you need to tell them, I need 5-year scheme on my paint. Then another important thing of dry dock, hull examination, because this happens in sometimes that once a vessel is launched, painted and launched, most of the standard yards do deliver the vessel in 3 to 4 months. But should that delay get to 6 months, what happens? I got a foul hull to start with. And if I have a foul hull to start with, my fuel consumption has gone down the drain. So you would like to say in the technical specification, if the vessel remains in the water for more than X months after launching, I would like to have the hull cleaned before delivery or take it into the dry dock. I would like to see it again. Or if you got anything dirt, I don't want my, let's say, sea chest trainers clogged with water, oil, dirt, anything. I want them cleaned before I sail off. Air conditioning system. This is a very common thing what happens, A lot of ships are not designed for operating in tropics. Their air conditioning design system is maximum outside air is 35 degrees centigrade. Well, if you're a tanker, most of your trading, 50% of the time, you're trading in not temperate zone, you're in tropics. And Gulf temperatures don't go anywhere near that, I think, except in winters. So you need an AC system which is capable of handling it. Whether you want additional compressors, what type of compressors, all that needs to be decided. Whether you're happy with having hermetically sealed compressors or I would like to go for standard reciprocating compressors, what kind of capacity control, this needs to be decided. Accommodation layout, I just explained it to you sometime earlier. Space for meeting rooms, additional meeting rooms. Certain people want, a meeting room where the entire crew plus certain additional people from outside can sit down, not in the mess room. Some of the people are very touchy about the mess rooms and living quarters. He says no meetings, etc. We will meet only in public places. Well, you need to build them up then. Cabling, that is a very, very important thing to do because especially for land cabling and surveillance equipments and new things, cameras, etc., it's always better to get them done in the yard rather than starting drilling all over the place. It's not, like I said, it can be done, but get it done in the yard, it becomes the cheapest. And supply of spares, makers, spares, etc. Because the question remains is if you want to change any of this subsequently, the yard has got a very simple way of doing it. They will find the cost. They'll say make A, make B, make C. Cost is X, Y, and Z. They'll give it to you. He said, this is the spec. Select your make, type, everything. And then yard adds a figure, which is their installation charges. So you got cost, the installation charges, and it used to be a plus 15% markup minimum on this price. And that is the yard's cost to it. That is it. If you want to change any of these things post installation or post signing this technical specification. So this document becomes absolutely important. A lot of people try to say, "Nahi, baad mein banayenge." Sorry for that. Those who are not understanding, we'll do it later. My suggestion is don't get it done at the time of signing the order because it is built into the cost. And subsequently, if you want to get it done later, any delay on the yard because of their own problems, they could pass it off to you saying that, well, your equipment has arrived late, my project is delayed. Well, that also yard would pass it on to you. And that would save the yard from paying you any compensations as per the contract, right? So I will stop for some time. I mean, I've been speaking for quite a little, about 30 minutes odd, and leave the floor open to any questions that has come Yogida's ways. I am willing to take them. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, sir. We do have 3 questions in the chat. So I'll just start with the first one. I'll read it as it is.
Yeah,
So
go
we
ahead.
have one from Mr. Chatterjee. Can we have some more specifics of how to evaluate a yard? I hope we can expand on it now or later in the presentation.
All right. Now, evaluation of a yard is, to start with, they'll say yard is, it's going to build in yard A. Great. Yard A, which site of yard A? Yeah, each yards, let's say in Korea or this thing, they've got 5 different sites to build it. I would like to see where my vessel is built, what facility they have it there. Or are they going to go and do a subcontractor's facilities? Whether they'll say, yes, I'm going to build in yard A, he's got no place to paint it properly. In fact, he doesn't have a place where humidity control rooms are available to paint these ballast tanks. Well, why should I get it built there if he's going to change in that place? So even if it is, let us say, one shipyard, he may have 3 different places where he's going to build. I would like to see all of them, number 1. Number 2, evaluation is not just physical evaluation. Okay, I would like to also see what facilities he has at the yard. The yard can always say, I will get it done at a subcontractor's work. However, the evaluation would also involve what I call commercial evaluation here. The commercial evaluation is the money you are going to pay them to the yard. He's going to give you a bank guarantee. Okay. Now that bank guarantee with the yard, or China, let's say yard in, I don't want to name a country like Pawan said, sometime country C, he's going to give you a bank guarantee with XYZ bank, whom nobody has heard about, and should something go wrong at a subsequent date, and then you want to encash your bank guarantee, you will say there is no guarantee available. And the bank guarantee says, go take a walk. What do? You lost your money. So the entire evaluation process is technical as well as commercial evaluation. So I would seriously say, in fact, as owners where we have gone to the yards, I have been involved in both these processes, and I must say a positive response. And in fact, I could also say that I had given a negative impression to one yard, and my owners decided, no, we won't build in the yard. For something, the feel wasn't right. So that is what I would say, evaluate the yard. Yeah. Right. Can we go to the next one?
Yeah, sure. There are quite a few questions. I will see how many we can cover. So, Mr. Chandra, let me know when you want to start, and we can do other questions in the end. We have next from Mr. Weng. Actually, it's 2 questions. He says, very good background information, useful indeed. May I know how do you determine which shipbuilding yard to go to satisfy charterers' requirements for maximum decarbonization on the operational performance of the life of the vessel? Thank you.
Well, it's a large question. I'm not sure as far as decarbonization and this is gone. It would involve a lot onto the design, what is acceptable. So once, I cannot just say which yard to go to ensure that the decarbonization requirement the owner is met at the onset. To some extent, yes, evaluation of the yard, evaluation of the design, evaluation of the technical specification. Yes, that, and in case of something like that, involve an expert. He will come with you. He will come and sit with you. He will have in such cases, I would be more than happy to take the help of the class who have ample experience and expertise in deciding these factors. They have a consultancy wings, and all of them are technically competent and expertise to come in and do this for you. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I will just go with another question. What are the 3 top most important factors to consider when you are representing a ship owner to build a sound and well specifications vessel?
Well, that is something we are going to come into a little later, but we will start talking about it. But that is second part of my presentation, and I'm sure I should be covering most of it. And in case we have anything more to do it, I would please shoot this question in the second part of the questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer you there.
Certainly. So I think I'll take one more question for now,
Yeah.
then we can cover
Go ahead.
more towards the end. Our third question, what are the implications of owner's crew boarding a new building just before salary for familiarization, etc.?
Yes, in the contract, the owner has, the contract does specify what set of how many numbers of people you can have on board during building, during trials, during familiarization, etc. Ideally, the yard doesn't want too much interference. Let me tell you that. So most of the yards would say, yes, you can have your building team, but supervision team would be limited to the top 4 or top 4 with the electrician in case there are serious electrical work going on. I would say that again, it depends on how your relationship is with the yard and your project manager. You can get in a couple of more guys easily before the sea trial. I have been successful in doing it. But yes, it will be at your cost. Yard won't pay you a penny. At your cost, you can bring them, you can use them. But the yard will say, oh, Mr. Manager, please, but then you will be playing the referee at that time with the yellow card and red card and everything, the project manager who is there, and you try to say, okay, I will tackle it and things like that. It again depends on how well a relationship you have with the team, with the project team who is building for you, and the yard. And then you can, if you're good, you can have the meeting out of your hand. I'm been successful in doing it. And getting what you wanted as well. So it's important that way. You can't just say that they'll do whatever you want, but then our interests need to be protected as well. That again depends on how you deal with it. It's an individual to individual. And I'm seeing some of the very experienced project managers who I've worked with and whom I've seen working, they're pretty adept in getting it done.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you want to take another question or you would like to move ahead?
Well, I can take one more, last one before I move.
Okay. So I think this is more of a request than a question from Mr. Vipin. Another very important activity is the drawing approvals by owners. We'll be very pleased if Mr. Chandrasekharan can touch upon this. So are you planning?
That would happen subsequently after these stages of technical specification and contract signing. Typically, the yard would send you all drawings which are available. And if I'm the owner's representative, I tell them I want all drawings. Not just the final drawing. I want to see the scantlings. I want to see everything. Because there are 2 sections of drawing or plan approval. What happens? One is the statutory plan approval as well as the strength drawing approval, which gets done by the class. That is mandatory. They will do it, but it's worth it. You also see it if you want additional scantlings in it. However, the most important thing is like accommodation. How you want your scuppers located? I'll give you a thing like that. How you want, the trim of the vessel, the heel of the vessel, how you want to ensure that the scuppers drain up properly, especially the sweating behind your, the insulation of your cabins, how is that drained? How do you ensure that? These are things, the class doesn't do it, this thing doesn't do it, you will need to see it. So it is very important, and I as an owner, as representative, would like to see every drawing. Where would I like to see including, I'll tell you, we have gone and approved color combinations of upholstery, color combination of curtains, color combinations, everything we have done it. We have done it professionally, and it used to be done. In some cases, my owners wanted a professional to have a look, and we had it looked for the color combinations. Officers' cabin, so-and-so, the carpet to match the upholstery, etc. So it's important. As an owner, yes, you need to see it, you need to do it. It's important. And again, that is where the expertise comes in. The people who have done it before, or like you say, practitioners, well, they can teach you a few tricks here or there, isn't it? Right. So I will move on with the next part of it.
Yeah, I would just like to apologize to people whose questions we could not take, and we will try to take them towards the end.
So, if you have time, we can do it. No problem.
Yeah, back over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Yogita. I'll move on. Now comes the most important guy of the whole thing on whom we are trying to look is the project head. Who is the project head? Owner's representative of project at the new building site is a key person for the owner, for he serves as the owner's eyes, ears in the yard, and he's a key communicator. Because let us say that he is going to be the one-man army between the yard, and because he's the man, the key man, or what you call the point man in the project. Further, the very reason that an owner always places a representative at the yard is to ensure that his interests are protected at all stages of ship construction. That is to be ensured. In fact, timely intervention by the project team or project head would ensure that deficiencies are not carried forward to a stage where rectifications become difficult. Yard will say, I can rectify it, but then katam putty or other cutting. I don't want it done. If you have an experienced guy, you tell them in before, well, this is not right. I don't want it. So yard would try to say, yes, we will change. Well, again, it's a discussion how it goes. Additional requirements of the owners are detailed in technical specifications, are complied with. That becomes the job of the project owner, because some yards will say, where is it? I don't know. Then you tell him, well, point number 3BC, column 4, this is what I want. Why have you not done it? So that's what I said. The technical specification of the project must be at the back of the hand of the project head. He is that man very critical for that. Because there are two things. What happens is class societies generally ensure compliance with statutory requirements and their own rules. They don't go into anything and everything, because that's what they paid for and that's what they get done. They inspect the ship to an approved quality assurance plan. But as a owner, you are the guy who is with the ship for the rest of its life. So you need to ensure that the ship is fit and fine in all aspects to get into the end of her life till she goes to the breaking yard. So that is when you need to build that quality into it. There is a great statement somebody said, quality cannot be inspected into the project. Quality need to be designed and built into it. And at that stage, that is the building stage, is where it is critical. And hence I would say the project's head's post is very, very critical for a ship owner. And it's important that the ship owner has the right man there as a project head. What about the involvement of the project head? I would say that if the project head is involved from the initial stages, because of the following reasons, he would know the entire process of design, the vessel, how the vessel was designed. He would know why a particular make was selected, why a particular make of engine was selected, and perhaps why that speed setting was selected at that. So that things are clear in his mind. He would also become familiar with all communication between the yard and the owner. Forget if he doesn't want the commercial communication, fine, but the technical communication is important that he should know. And most important is the acceptance by the yard. The yards do play games, let me tell you that. A yard would accept a project manager, the part of the owner's core team. Is very critical, because every communication that goes with the yard and the owner has to be through the project manager, ideally. Yards, I said, do play games. They may bypass him. And because you are going in one direction and then the yard has agreed with something else with the owner, and at the end of the day, this owner has agreed to you, then you don't know what happens. So acceptance by the yard, if the yard says, yes, this is the boss from which I am going to deal at all the times, the project manager has no problem. And of course, the owner has no problems. There is no bypassing that. And finally, I would say that he has got a big say in selection of the project team. I'm coming to the project team later, the competencies and what are required, etc. So he would have a team which he feels is competent, because he is answerable to the owner at the end of the day. The team is answerable to him. In a lot of cases, we have seen the project head is given a team, he has no clue about it. You don't know their capabilities. You don't know this thing. Then he has a little trouble or a time to get the work done. Because if you're building 4, 5, 6 hulls at the same time, they are in different stages of construction. Managing everything with the team, let's say 4 to 5 guys, isn't an easy job. So that comes, what should be the knowledge of the project team? I just said that about it. It's an accepted fact that ship will sail with all issues that are not rectified in the building yard, as it becomes very difficult to rectify them during the vessel's trade. Simple this thing. The vessel is built in China. Your trading route, the ship doesn't come anywhere near China. You're trading between, let's say, Japan and Middle East. You're a tanker or an LNG ship. You're not coming anywhere near China. You got issues in the engine room or somewhere, some problem, which has been found out subsequently. The only way to rectify it, and it's not easy to rectify, it's not a small welding job or something. You got to gas free the ship. You have to take it to a yard. You got lifting. You got all those things to be done. 99.9%, it won't be permitted in a quayside. So end of the day, you go off hire, gas free, get into a yard and get it done. You know the cost? Some of the owners will go bonkers looking at the amount that is it. So the question is, the ship shouldn't have any of those issues. But ships do sail with issues which can be sorted out. But you should not have anything which can't be. Ideally, when the ship sails, anything and everything should be dealt with there. Hence, I would say the ship supervision have so much capabilities as a minimum. Steel construction. I'll come to it a little later. What are the details? Who needs how much, what knowledge to be done? Machinery installation trials. It may be one man or more than one man with the core knowledge availability. Electrical installation, including cabling, especially if you go in for super hi-fi offshore vessels, the electrical installation is massive. Diesel electric ships, massive. So you may need a very specially trained or knowledgeable electrical man there. And finally, and most important of it is coating. Why? I'll come to you in next 3 to 4 slides. Steel constructions. Now, the project head need not be an expert in everything. He could be an expert in one or more of these, but the core team must have this much knowledge is what I feel that. Steel construction. As a minimum, the person supervising the steel construction should have possessed the following knowledge. Steel making and how different types of steel is made and the properties and defects associated with them. Some people ask me, why should I know steel making to know this thing? I tell them one thing very simple. Look at it as a doctor inspecting a patient. If a doctor says that for fever, I give him paracetamol, he's not a doctor. He should know what caused the fever. Is there anything underlying that caused the fever? So to become a doctor, you have studied the anatomy and physiology before becoming a doctor, not saying that, okay, he's got fever, I'll give him paracetamol. So I would say the steel guy, anything, let me tell you, to rectify it, there are two things. One is identify a defect before, if you're able to identify it before it becomes, it can solve it faster, yard would appreciate you, number one. Number two, you will save time, cost, money for everyone. So if you're associated with it, you see a steel going in bad there, you see a lamination at the side of it to say, stop it here, let's have something else coming. Or you put your foot down and says, I don't want that bad thing going on my ship. Both ways, it can help you. So ideally, if you know the defects which are associated with the process, it will be easier for you to solve it. Method of steel segregation in the yard. I had the personal experience. The steel man did not know color coding there. He was supposed to be my steel inspector. So I asked him a simple question. How would you say that, how will you differentiate between 2 grades of steel? He says, yard will tell me. I said, well, that's not what I want. The question is, once the steel is blasted, grid blasted, you just cannot make out what grade it is. Is it H grade or A grade or D grade? Even God can't figure it out unless that segregation is known and you know the color coding, again, at the back of your hand. Steel treatment, that is what I said. Coding, color coding, how the yard does it, what kind of primers they use, what kind of pre-treatment primers they use. And most of them, yes, they use it. Prefabrication primers are approved. But there are some smart Alex who try to use a unapproved prefabrication primers as well in between. If you see a color shade change, you should be the first guy to say, let me know what primer is it. Is it approved? Different types of welding employed and defects associated with each process. Again, important, because this is linked again to the steel making. He's got a flux core arc welding going on there, and then if you don't know what is associated with the flux core arc welding, it's very difficult to find out what defect you're looking for. Or the guy has done a part of the pipe welding by TIG, and then you're trying to say, oh, it's got slag inclusion in it. My God, you don't know what you're talking about. The yard also will say, boss, not the right guy to deal with, you know. And again, distortion control during welding, important. Some site fabricated joints, you know, the pipes come in a very distorted condition, and then very unruly, crude method, what I call chain block technology is used to fit it. So if you find a distortion happening, somebody trying to do it, well, stop it. It helps your ship. And non-destructive tests employed by the yard. Somebody says, just do a UT there. But is the UT the right test? That if you know it, you say, no, I don't want a UT. Why not do an MPI? If you know the process, if you know the defects, if you know the limitations of the process, you would do that. Next one is machinery installation. I just said that it, as a minimum, the machinery installation and trial should possess the following knowledge. Shop trial protocol and interpretation of results. Because let me tell you one thing, and most of the important thing is, especially the major equipments like engines and generator engines and main engines and compressors, if you want, all of them, and large winches, anchor handling winches, etc. The agreed results are done only on shop floor trials when these equipments are on a dynamometer. That is when you should know how the fuel calculations are done. You should know how the constants of the dynamometers are worked, etc. Otherwise, you'll end up just signing the paper with the yard gives you, in which case it meets. Shaft alignment procedures, vibration measurements. Because yes, yards do use people who know it. They are experts themselves. But if they are trying to, because some of these alignment processes and vibration issues may not surface when the vessel is in light ship condition. It may surface when you are loaded. You've already taken delivery of the vessel. Become very difficult to get it sorted out later. But if you know that these processes and what is done, especially alignment is a very critical thing in modern things. Like earlier, people used to use chalk fast and things like that. All that is passé now. Modern yards use very advanced way of alignment and realignment procedures. Earlier tackles like piano wires are again passé. Theodolite, you should know very well how a theodolite alignment is done. Machinery installation procedures. Why I say machinery installation procedures are types and pieces are not overstressed. I'll give an example. Like the team at the yard, rather the people who are assembling, they are contract staff. Two pipe joints are not meeting. They bring in a big bari or a 5-ton chain block. These are two weapons they use. And then you go there and you see the pipes are not aligned. When you come back, you see it fitted in place, tightened 4 bolts in place. Now the problem is you're the guy who is going to overhaul it. The moment you open it, at sea you won't be able to put it back. Because these guys have literally wrestled the pipe into place. These are techniques they use it, because if not, the process involved is cut the pipe, re-weld it, redo it, reprocess it. Cost time, money. Easiest way is chain block and a big bari. Avoid it. Then also it happens is heat exchangers typically. You have a heat exchanger in place. As a typical marine engineer, I would like to open it and clean it at places. But then you suddenly realize that I can't remove at the end of the end cover, there is an electrical cabling going. What do I do? So if I have to open my heat, then the only choice is disconnect the heat exchanger, take it off and clean it. Try doing it at sea. Not an easy job. So when you got the heat exchanger shell and tube type, typically, I should have place for the tube bundle to be removed. Both the ends should be clear. And if necessary, have lifting points going on. These are things which you should have, knowledge sufficiently before it is fitted. Because if the guy has already laid a cable post fitting the exchanger there, you have no time, you have nothing to do. You can't do anything. Correct fitting practices, side joints of galvanized pipes is another very topic which comes in. You got long galvanized pipes, very good. They got a side joint. And then I have asked the yard, okay, if you weld the galvanizing, what happens? He'll say, we'll paint it, sir. I told him, very good. Then pass the fluid over the pipe. So they looked at me, why? I said, my friend, the moment you weld a galvanized pipe, what happens to the galvanization inside the pipe? I see, what a pipe. And the moment you lose at that point, 5 years is what gave life for that pipe. See what a pipe. And we have seen it happening in ships, 5 years old ships, see what a pipe's leaking. And built in reputed yards, let me tell you that. Most of them are side joints. And when you go and look at the specification, yes, galvanized pipes. A properly galvanized pipes will not leak in 15, I can tell you that. Finally, care on watertight bulkhead fittings, especially shaft fittings, shaft packings, etc. You got an extended shaft, things like that. These bulkhead fittings, they're called gas tight fittings. And tankers, you have it on the cargo oil pumps. From the turbine, it goes to the pumps, whether it is vertical, horizontal. But these things fitting, you must be part of the team. You must know how it goes. I come to the next thing, electrical installation. Now, electrical installation is a very tricky thing to deal with because it can be from very simple normal systems to running into extremely complex electrical supervision stuff, especially diesel electric drives, pod drives, and I mean, there is no end to technical upgradation. It keeps happening. You may have a specialist, or you may do with your own knowledge. There are very good chief engineers capable of doing it. I've seen that. What should be their capability? Functioning of large electrical machines, especially soft starters using complex electrical drives. You're not using any more star deltas for large meters, motors. They're all soft starters. Segregation of cables, because this becomes another very important thing, power and control cable. I remember we had a problem in one of our vessels when it was not done properly. The fault signals made our life, the eddies that got generated from it, made our control circuit into serious troubles during trials. It took a humongous amount of time to get it rectified. And some of these eddies may come in not in normal running during sea trial. You may come in during service. You just can't find it. Electrical installation procedures typically must be sufficient place to maintenance. Again, I would say I've seen a ship where a big lube oil pump, vertical pump motor was fitted in place and everything cabled, everything connected. When I told the electrical supervisor, I asked him, how do I remove the end cover if I want to remove the motor? He's looking at the sky, you see. But thankfully, it was in an earlier stage of construction. We could get it done. So if these are done earlier, all he needed was to replace the pump by 30 degrees, one bolt shift, and that is what he could have done it. But it took time. And again, load trial requirements of ships are important. That must be known to the electrical team. It is no longer that you just go for a saltwater bath tank and just put it into resistance. The electrical load behaves differently if you got resistance load, you got capacitance loads, and you got inductance loads, and a combination of it. Ideally, you should be able to supervise a load trial typically before going out to sea, and a combination of these type of typical loads. For that, you should know how it behaves, how the electrical machines behave. And finally, I'll come to the last inspector, what is it, coating. Why is coating inspection important? One of the things what happens now, and rather I would say what should be his capability? Ideally be NACE certified. The yard would have NACE certified. NACE is National Association of Corrosion Engineers of America. They teach you how to do a coating inspection because of the standard called PSPC code. PSPC code is a performance standard of protective coating adopted by IMO in 2013 as a rule. It is set out with a target of 15 years where the coating is supposed to remain in as good condition as it was applied. How this coating is done, what is done, yes, you should know. Surface preparation techniques and this inspection, how is it done? Humidity measurement techniques, how it is done. And finally, must be very vigilant. Why I say very vigilant? Because yards can be tricky. They can be pushed to the corner in time. They have painted without the paint drying. They are given the second coat when the prime coat is half dry. And most important thing, what happens is any welding which happens on an already coated surface from the other side, which damage the coating. I have seen this happening in PSPC tanks, that especially topside tanks of a ballast tank. The ship is ready, all installed, topside tank inspected, everything to PSPC requirement. One installation guy want to put a lug on the deck tank, on the deck, main deck. He comes in with a good lug to support something, he welds it. What happened to the PSPC coating underneath? And the unfortunate thing there was one of our inspector was close by. Then what is the point of him being an inspector? Well, we took the yard to task and we told the inspector, well, we are going to inspect every tank again. And that's what we did. Because otherwise, how do I ensure that the tanks are good? We are paid for it, no? Right? Now, I will come to the last part of this thing on point of inspection of the new building yard, which I would say, I said it earlier, the vessel will sail with all issues that are not rectified in the building yard. quality needs to be designed and built into the ship. As an owner's representative, one needs to inspect every aspect of new building, including what work is done on your ship at a subcontractor's site. He must give you rights to visit. If not, that is not acceptable. All material that is being used for your ship, you must have access to it. Anything abnormal, most blame is often put on people, say, working under supervisors of the night shift, subcontractor. That is where the blame goes. The main yard is never at fault. So two things we tell them: if subcontractor is making fault, change him, stop it. Or if it is happening in the night shift, no work on my ship on the night shift. You put double staff on my ship on the day shift. Then you have better control. We will make it right later. It's not accepted because toward the end of the vessel delivery, you would have commercial pressure to take the vessel off the ship. And for reason I explained a little earlier, it becomes extremely difficult to repair that vessel on a later date when the vessel is in commercial operation. You may end up doing a commercial settlement rather than a commercial rectification. The commercial settlement, fine, owner gets his money, but the people who's operating it, it could be a nightmare. And in my thing, as a supervisor on a new building, I would be an ultimate pessimist. I will say Murphy's Law. If anything can go wrong, it will always. It holds good for shipbuilding. With that, I just end my presentation with a very lovely sight for any shipbuilding project manager. That is this. His project sailing off for his first contract. Let me tell you, that's one of the best sights what you see. It's a real heave, a sigh of relief at this stage because I would say 90% of the time, the previous night you haven't slept. You are most probably trying to organize stores, or the master will say provisions, and he wants one cruise paper is not there, you're organizing it. And once she sails off, well, you say, yes, it's now time to put your feet up for some time and celebrate. With that, I would come to the end of my presentation. I will hand over to Captain Dinyar Sidhwa of ISF, who will take it over from here, as well as I am remaining connected for any questions that would come through Yogyada toward the end of this presentation. Thank you, gentlemen.
Right. Thank you.
Stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll start sharing my screen. And as Mr. Chandrasekhan said, we will be taking questions just after this brief insight into learn from the practitioner program a little bit by Captain Dinyar Sidhwa. I'll start by sharing my screen again. I hope you can all see this. Yes. Okay. Captain Sidhwa, over to you. I've asked you to unmute your mic, please.
Yeah, good afternoon and good evening to everyone, depending on which part of the globe you are situated in. I will provide you a brief glimpse into the upcoming Learn from the Practitioner series program. The first program that will be available from our Practitioner series will pertain to shipbuilding and repairs. What you just saw our practitioner, Mr. Chandrasekhar, present today was only a preview. We will be introducing similar programs thereafter on varied subjects of interest to this industry and others. Next slide, Yogita. So the first program that we intend bringing out is the Shipbuilding and Repairs program. This is meant for new building superintendents, managers with ship owners, technical services and shipbuilding supervision companies, chief engineers and second engineers who are seeking shore opportunities, and maritime trainers seeking enhancement of overall knowledge. The program is in 4 parts or 4 modules, each of 18 hours duration. These sessions will be covered over a working week or weekend. Around 3 hours of contact sessions will be involved each day. The faculty that you see on the right of your picture has over 200 years of collective seagoing and shore experience. 50 plus years of sailing, 70 plus years with classification societies, 50 plus years with ship owners, main fleet and offshore, and 30 plus years with shipyards and ship supervision projects. So we're talking about of experts. Next slide, please. So now let's look into a little more detail at what this program will offer you. So this program has 4 modules. The first one is planning and organization, followed by materials and processes, shipbuilding processes, and monitoring and supervision. Here I would like to say that modules 1 and 4 pertain to management of resources, whereas modules 2 and 3 relate to broad, hardcore processes involved in shipbuilding. At this stage, I'd like to narrate a short story for you. This pertains to the aspect of monitoring and supervision in a shipyard. About 10 years ago, an offshore vessel was constructed at an Indian yard. Clearly, the owner's supervision during the shipbuilding process was minimal. The deck-to-deck head clearance of some of the platforms in the engine room were just about 5.5 feet. Once the vessel was delivered, the engine room staff found it very, very hard to stand erect and engage in even routine tasks, unless the person was of a short stature. For the life of the vessel, imagine what was the plight of the staff. Therefore, good monitoring and supervision are critical ingredients in a shipbuilding activity. Besides this program, we will have many more programs to follow. One such program that we have determined would be of interest and is management related is called the General Management Essentials. Yogyata, can you share the next screen, please? Sorry, I still first have to finish. Yeah, if you shared it, that's great.
Yeah, I do.
So here, this is a General Management Essentials program meant for senior and middle level management in any organization. Any person in a managerial position seeking to either enhance his or her overall management and decision-making skills, and all entrepreneurs, whether experienced or new startups. This program will be in 7 modules, each of 12 to 18 hours duration. These will be covered over a working week or weekend, around 3 hours of contact sessions every day. And the faculty mentioned here has over 90 years of collective experience, 70 plus years in senior managerial decision-making positions, and 15 plus years of entrepreneurship, developing and managing organizations. So now let's look at what this program will offer you. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, there are 7 modules in this program. The first one pertains to financial and accounting for non-accounting personnel. Many of our seafaring personnel and those ashore have little idea of financial and accounting terms. They would find it difficult to read a balance sheet or look at profit and loss reports or make analysis. So this program will fill the blanks over here. The second program is focused on human resource development and management, starting with organization structure and staffing requirements, going on into recruitment and selection, appraisals, and most importantly, learning and development. The third program is on operations management. This covers planning and organizing, monitoring and execution, maintaining quality management systems, and inventory control. The fourth program is on information management. So some of the common types of management information systems include process control systems, human resource management systems, sales and marketing, inventory control, enterprise resource planning systems, accounting systems, finance systems, and lastly, management reporting systems. So this is a program which many of you may find useful. The fifth program is on business strategy, business development, marketing, and sales. This covers everything from market research, understanding customers, understanding market segmentation, and goes on to doing market analysis, developing business strategies and their proper execution. The sixth program pertains to soft skills. And here, soft skills are needed for any managerial positions, particularly soft skills like leadership and decision-making, assertive communication and negotiation skills, and lastly, stress and self-management and emotional intelligence. We then come to the last one, the seventh module, which pertains to project management. So a project can be managed effectively only if the core elements of general management are understood and implemented effectively. So whatever we've talked about earlier would form part of this project management module. And before I end, I would like to state that you need not undertake all the modules in a program. You may choose to obtain training only in those modules that are of interest to you or to your organization. With this, I hope I have provided you a brief glimpse into the upcoming Learn from the Practitioner series. Over to you, Yogita. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Siddha. Right, so we have finished with the main agenda for today. We are open for questions. I will stop sharing my screen. Of course, a lot of you have written questions to me privately on chat. However, if some of you would like to interact with the speakers today or our team today, so please feel free to raise your hand so I can unmute you and you can ask your question. Otherwise, I will proceed with the questions that we have received on the chat. If there's anyone who's raising their hands first, otherwise I'll move to reading out from the chat. I think if you see on the participant, if you click and then you should be able to raise your hands from there somewhere on the menu on the bottom. Right. In the meanwhile, Mr. Chandrasekharan, I will just take one or two questions from the previous session.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm ready.
Right. So one was where do we stand now as a shipbuilding nation? What needs to be done by government and entrepreneurs to make India a shipbuilding nation?
Well, that is a interesting question because if you want a private opinion or you want a general opinion, I mean, if it's a private opinion, you need to call me privately. I'll tell you what I think of it. But let me put it the other way. I have had experience supervising as an owner's representative in a very famous Indian yard. Also, I have had experience trying to supervise, as a class surveyor, doing new building in some of the Indian yards. I think Indian yards need to learn a lot. I haven't at all done much work, especially new building, in the premier Indian yard what of new building now called Cochin Shipyard, which I understand is in a fantastic way comparable with any of the yards abroad. So apart from that yard, I said something on new building, any owner would say, to say he's going to pay you X amount of money to build a ship. And his interest in building the ship is that the ship must serve its purpose, be trouble-free, and work for the next 15, 20 years to which it is designed to. So what do you need? You need design quality and build quality. Are we prepared for it? I have a big doubt on that in most of the yards where I've seen. It's a private opinion. It could be different. We need to change. There is skill available. There are welders available, but there is something missing in the entire process, quite possibly the will to do it. That's what it is. Because otherwise, in fact, I can give you another example. When we built in a country which is south of us called Sri Lanka, a very small place, where if to build from the country's capabilities, then I don't know if it has changed now. It has been quite some years since we built that. Even if you want a toggle switch that is not manufactured in the country. What I mean toggle switch, a piano switch, to put a light on or off. If I want a stud Let's say a 5/7/8 inch B728 stud that has to be imported. It is not available. It has to come from Dubai or Singapore. Everything, all these are available, made, manufactured in India. I can go to the next market here in Bombay and get it. But the question remains is, they built better ships than what was built in India. The ship what you saw when I saw, and the final slide was from Colombo, the picture. I've been telling you, the yards, the people who bought one of the ship, one of my clients, he says it's an excellent built vessel, it's a fantastically built vessel. Question is, as an owner, I am willing to pay the price for that quality. But quality in paper is not what I want. I want the quality on the ship. So that mindset needs to change, is my opinion. It's not that technically, okay. And in Colombo, there was a very difficult section to build in a small ship. So I complimented the yard. And the general manager of the yard told me, sir, it is built by Indian builders. Now what do I say? Don't we have capabilities? We definitely have. But that mindset to build quality, I am afraid we still don't have it. Yeah, next one I can take.
Yeah, sure. So, okay, I have another one. Actually, there are quite a few. I'm just missing out.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, can we have a brief outline of what not to miss in a shipbuilding QAP which keeps everyone happy? Do not want to make it very detailed, yet it should not miss any aspect.
All right. QAP, in my opinion, is meant for the class. Because that is when we say, do you mark, hold, witness, and observation points, etc. The class will say, I will watch this point, I will observe this point, I will review this point, and I will witness this point to certify the ship. As an owner's representative, I say I don't want a QAP. I want to witness every stage. Fine. You ask me, the stage is ready. It's my job to be there. If I'm not there, I may say if it is important or unimportant, and take a call saying that, okay, go ahead. Or perhaps that way. But ideally, to go with a QAP for a new building, personally, I don't want to be. Because I want to see every stage. When the pipe is being welded, I want to see a stage of the pipe when the root is welded, if the root is fused. I don't want to see the pipes only pressure test. So the question remains that the pressure test may pass, but the root of the weld is not welded. I don't want that pipeline in my ship. So personally, yes, it's good. That works, but I would take a bypass onto that.
Right. How would you deal with classification societies? They work for shipyard during new building and then work for owners once ship is delivered. So a bit of
on the lighter side, has been asked by ex-class society surveyor. No, we had the same thing going on at the time of, like I said, I have worked on both sides. I worked in class as well as I worked as an owner's representative. Well, you deal with it the way it is right. Class society can be challenged. There's not something which you cannot challenge it. Class society's word is not final because you're the man who is paying for it at the end of the day. I firmly believe that if there is something wrong which is not found by the class society, and say if it is acceptable by the class society, you can challenge it. And over and above that, I told you, the class rules, the IX rules, everything is there. There is another document called technical delivery conditions, or what I call the technical specifications. That compliance is your job as an owner's representative. You need to deal with the class nicely. There is absolutely nothing wrong in being good, correct with him, but correct but firm is my answer at both the sides, because that is how traditionally the shipbuilding has happened, that the class get paid by the yard in part of the cost, and subsequently then they report to USAs and somebody comes and says, well, somebody built it, somebody inspects it, and it's no. End of the day, it's the owner who holds the key to it, and I would expect the owner to be taking the bull by the horn when it's required. Because I having dealt with these class societies, yes, you can have some difficult guys at the site, but well, it can be discussed. You can meet the manager and tell them what your issues are, and they are pretty good in dealing with these issues. They're pretty good in dealing with difficult clients as well. Yep.
Right. This is one question from the previous session. Let me just find it. In the meanwhile, I would just like to tell everyone they can keep posting their questions. We are here for at least a little bit. If you have questions about Learn from the Practitioner series also, please feel free to post. Yeah. So, Mr. Chandrasekharan, in your opinion, how has COVID-19 affected new builds and dry dock projects? This is from the yeah.
Yeah, okay. It is affected very heavily in the sense that you can't travel. I'm the owner based out of India, let us say, and I got to go and see a ship there. Well, it's definitely affected unless I'm already there, quarantined or something like that. As of now, if you look at from the point of view of India, we are not prohibited from doing international travels unless you're a resident visa holder. The question then depends is that you need to rely on reliable, available team, and in case you have a good site team available, rely on them. And as for dry docking, I can say my previous company has done successful dry docking in China of our ships using the ship's team. In this case, this is an ideal opportunity where the what would I say, the ship's staff were empowered to act like superintendents, and they did a damn good job. I'm aware of it. So it's like a training. In ideal condition, this training would have happened in a classroom or in a conference hall, what we are discussing. But we are doing an online, use technology, and then equip them, all of them with cameras on their helmets. And if the superintendent or chief engineer goes around and you tell him, show me this point, show me that point where I want to see, and he's got his camera on his helmet, I'm quite sure, and these are all very high resolution cameras, what you have, you've got high bandwidth available. So you need to improvise. It's happening, it has to be done. The only thing who is missing there is the superintendent. Yes, another thing that is missing is technicians. If you're looking at specialist technicians to come from foreign countries to fix, yes, you may miss them, especially special equipments, what you need to do. So that you need to plan or use alternate technicians, etc. But improvise is the key for it. I think all of us have improvised during this period. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much. So we are almost towards our closing time. There are a few comments there. They're not exactly questions, but maybe we can forward those to you. I think we would like to move towards closing this session. Is that okay with everyone? And what I can do is I can share our group email ID to everyone on chat. Please feel free to note it down. You can always email us with more questions. And of course, Mr. Chandrasekharan is now a practitioner in our Learn from the Practitioner series. He's part of the team, and we will be very happy to forward any of your queries or comments that you have to him. And I'm sure whenever he gets the time, he can respond back to you. So you can note down this email ID that I've posted on chat. I don't have much closing comments. I would just like to thank the team, all the practitioners that we have here, and all of you who have attended this webinar today. We at ISF Group do keep doing such small events, webinars, training programs from time to time. So if you would like to receive information about that, let us know, and we can add you to our mailing list, which does not bombard you, but just sends you something once a month with some updates. So feel free to let us know if you have any such interests. And I will request if anyone has any closing comments, please feel free. Otherwise, as a host, I will wind up the session. Mr. Chandrasekharan, Mr. Kapoor, anything do you have to say?
No, I would at least end up saying that thanks for participation, thanks this thing. And let me tell you, like what Captain Sidhwa said sometime later, the next programs what are coming. That is some certain programs which we can equip the people who intend to get into hardcore shipbuilding. Like I said, one part which we will, that is item number 2 there, what we said is materials and non-destructive testing as well as welding. These are things, especially for steel construction guys, especially young people like chief engineers, masters, superintendents, who not only new building, even for existing ships who wants to get into this is no rocket science. Quite possibly what you guys have learned in engineering colleges are being rephrased and redone, but it is being done in a very packaged form. So please stay tuned to the sites of what ISF, and when the courses get announced, well, like you said, upgrade yourself, it's worth it. And this is e-upgrade, what ISF group will be giving it to you. So it may be worth it. It's a certification program. And some of the owners whom we have discussed with, some of the superintendents, senior superintendents and fleet managers have talked highly about it. So it could be a good endeavor sometimes, like as and when ISF plans to do it, get the e-course done. And you can attend it anywhere. You can attend it from your home. You can attend it from your office. I mean, some chief engineers who are on leave, upgrade yourself. It's yeah, they would be paid programs, but that something with ISF group will come back to you with that. With that, I would end my part of the talking and hand over back to Mr. Kapoor.
No, I would just like to thank Mr. Chandrasekharan and all of you for being here. And just to add to what Mr. Chandrasekharan just said, that yes, these would be paid programs, but you can be sure that the fees would be very competitive. Our intention is to now go and try and get maximum people skilled as soon as possible, because that is the mission that we are working on. And we would look forward to an opportunity of being with you all for running these programs and to see you sometime. Thank you so much. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.